What is up, everybody? Welcome to Sixers Postgame Live. We are breaking down breakdown to the Sixers 114-99 win over the Toronto Raptors here at home. Joining me, he is Tiago. Give him a follow on Twitter at TiagoPHL. What's good, Tiago?
What's going on, Chris? We were just talking before the podcast, man. Basketball is fun to watch again. This is it's an entirely different team than what we saw under Doc Rivers, and they are a lot of fun to watch. The effort, the energy, the rotations, the movement. I think it's going to be a fun year to watch Sixers basketball again, man.
Yeah, we're 4 games in. Like the first 2 games were like, this is fun. This is like It was like a consolation prize. It was like moral victories, especially after that loss to the Bucks. But we're 4 games in. We're seeing a 2-3 zone in the fourth quarter. Like the adjustments, the hustle, the activity we're seeing on from these Sixers perimeter players, man. It's been just a breath of fresh air. Joining us from PickSwap Media, he is Sean Bernard. Give him a follow on Twitter at Sean_Bernard. What's good, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, the Furkan Korkmaz game we were waiting for, fellas. I'm blown away. That was an awesome game. We're seeing the pieces come together. The defense was absolutely terrific. We're seeing the vision on that end. They were swarming everywhere, all over the court. A ton of good stuff tonight, and it's cool to kind of like out-Raptors the Raptors a little bit.
Yeah, we've all been waiting to see that James Harden package get on the court tonight, but it was all about Furkan Korkmaz, baby.
Oh,
like, yeah. He looked kind of good.
For sure.
Defensively? We'll get into it. But we got to start off with, I think, Tobias Harris, who had 23 points in this one, 7 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals. What I thought was interesting about this game is he was going up against a guy that could be a potential trade candidate for the Philadelphia 76ers and Pascal Siakam, and he took his lunch money, man. He made Pascal Siakam look really bad. Sean, what was your take on Tobias?
Yeah, I've on many occasions called Pascal Siakam Tobias Harris with a permanent green light, and tonight I'm taking Tobias straight up. That I'm very impressed by like the growth and efficiency from him so far to start the season. I think a lot of it, I think we all talked about how we thought that James Harden would optimize Tobias Harris by being able to kind of set him up for shots. It looked like the opposite. Like Tobias is playing much more free. He looks like he's enjoying the more freedom, the more movement. He looks more natural in a role that I would have guessed he would be more uncomfortable with. And that's really pleasant to see. The shot efficiency is awesome. He's competing defensively. He did a lot of nice stuff as far as rotating on the opposite end of the floor. I was really keyed in on the defense today, which I was surprised about that, but that really jumped off the screen to me. But yeah, Tobias has now been this guy for all 4 games. If he can keep this up at the level for the entire season, like he's a huge contributor to this team. So hats off to him for continuing to adjust and producing at this level.
Yeah, the Sixers are among the tops in the league in fast break points. And a lot of that's, Nick Nurse is, wanting to push the tempo, defense to offense. And kind of Tobias is a big piece of that. Yeah. Here's the shot chart, Tiago. What was your take on your boy, Tobias Harris?
Well, my first thing is I don't know how anybody can watch Pascal Siakam and think the Sixers should go all in on this guy. Like, I just don't see the fit. Maybe Nurse has some sort of magic potion they can sprinkle on Siakam when he gets here, but I just don't see how he's a guy that can elevate the Sixers to new heights. I've never been a huge Siakam fan. He's obviously made strides, but I'm very skeptic on the fit and the ability to raise Philly to a championship-level team. With that said, yeah, Tobias Harris had a phenomenal game. I thought that in the first half, in particular the first quarter, they were struggling to get off anything going offensively. And I thought his plays in the open court, in particular, attacking the rim in space, they kind of shifted the game towards Philly's favor. I mean, he's always been a good to very good open court player. I mean, he's a guy who can finish at the rim with length, size. He runs the floor well. So it's just a matter of him getting engaged in those type of plays. And I think early in the year, you see that he's willing to move, right? I don't know if we were talking about this before, but when you look at the players who have moved the most offensively in the NBA, he's at the near top. The NBA tracks player distance travel offensively, and he's in the top 5 to top 10. I mean, that speaks to a player who has bought into a little bit of what Nurse wants, which is like you're not going to stop the ball at the post for 24 seconds. So, yeah, I thought he had a phenomenal game. 7 rebounds, right? You're playing up to power forward. You're going to have to step up and get some boards. So, yeah, it was a fantastic Tobias game, man. I thought the second half he got a little bit more stagnant, but you take what you get with Harris at this point in the game. So,
as we've seen with Tobias, man, when he's like clicking on all cylinders, man, he looks so much more confident, so much more decisive with the basketball, taking shots that the defense gives him. I really like seeing him play with the pace and quickness of this offense, man. He is definitely thriving in this. He's 18 of 29 from the floor the last 2 games and a plus 37 around plus 37, man. He's been killing it. Last 2 games. Quinn says Toby Bryant. Barry says we will always get an unbiased Thiago about Tobias.
82 games in the season, right? You're saying that.
Quinn says work on the glove, Korkmaz. I thought the rumor was for OG. I have always had
him as well.
I have always thought the real target is OG. And to fight with the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks and things like that. That's always been my vibe.
I think OG's a better fit, but I am also skeptic about giving OG a ton of money.
Are
we getting Tobias 2.0 here? I mean, I don't know. Like when you watch OG, you're like, man, there's some holes here in this game. So I know you're probably not get a complete player. Those guys are far and few between, but I don't know, man. I just don't know. Maybe Sean sees it differently.
I mean, I'm higher on OG than I am on Pascal. The thing that holds me back about Siakam is every basket he scores looks so difficult on him to score. Like there's never a smooth, like it's always him this herky jerky backing into a like fadeaway jumper and it somehow falls. It's never something that I'm like, all right, that's good, reliable offense right there. I don't think OG's that guy either, but I think he is a better defensive weapon. I think he's a good balance. I think he's a more complete balance what I'm really looking for in this trade is the merger between Maxey and Embiid, that piece to tie it all together. To me, OG is much more of that fit. And I do agree. Like I think he gets overhyped on the national landscape and the way that some people look on him. But I do think he makes sense from a fit standpoint. And I think in Toronto, he's looked at to be a little more than he actually is versus if he comes to Philadelphia, he's going to be in a much more comfortable role. So I'm much more in on the OG than I am on the Siakam trade. But I think they're in very similar spots from like a contract standpoint. And I see the argument for both.
Yeah, for sure. Let's roll on to Joel Embiid. 28 points. Didn't shoot particularly well, but he got to the free throw line, 12 of 13. Love to see that. 13 boards, man. I love the emphasis Embiid is putting on the glass this year. 7 assists again. Finding his teammates, he was a team high plus 22. Thiago, what was your take on Embiid?
For me, it's the energy level. It stands out in contrast to what we saw from Embiid the last couple of years. I mean, yeah, he won the MVP. He was a fantastic player. But there are a lot of games last year and even the playoffs where the energy level was not there. And early in the year, you're seeing a completely different player from that aspect of it. He's very engaged. It shows on the glass. Like you said, 13 boards. He just looks stronger. He looks more determined on both sides of the glass. He's been massive rebounding presence. And defensively, man, I mean, he's out contesting shots out on the three-point line like it's his full-time job. We just remember seeing that when he was with Brett Brown, right? His process days, when he didn't know what that was doing on the court. He's out there kind of contesting and making it hard for players. I think that type of energy, when you see your best player put that out there on film, if you're like Kelly Oubre or if you're like, Jaden Springer, there's no way you're not following that lead or else you're just going to look really bad on the film room. So I think he's setting the tone for the team to play the way they've been defensively. He's been a fantastic rim protector to start the year. So, yeah, I mean, the numbers don't really pop offensively, but I thought it was a really, really good Embiid game tonight.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's only one block because I swear he was contesting a ton of shots.
Yeah, he still alters them, yeah.
What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I think he's like getting back to the basics of what makes him so special as a player. That the offensive rebounds for starters, five offensive rebounds tonight. That's now back-to-back games with five offensive rebounds. He only had 2 games all of last year with more than 4 offensive rebounds. So he's already tied that. And it does, like, you feel the commitment from him of him trying. And defensively, beyond just the blocking shots, he's done like a really nice job of he like attacks the ball handler in like this demonstrative way. And he's obviously so big that he alters everything. And we see guys just straight up passing out of shots without him having to jump. There's very few guys across the entire NBA that are capable of that. And Joel Embiid kind of like seeming like he's beginning to get a feel for that is super awesome. And he's still flying out on the perimeter. He's still jumping out toward 3-pointers. There was one play where it got swung out to Grady Dick at the 3-point line, and Embiid comes flying out, and you saw him like his life flash before his eyes. And the fact that like everyone's kind of on the same page with that is huge. And Embiid really is the key to all of this, that he is for sure one of the best defenders in the NBA whenever he commits to that side of the ball. He's looked committed through all of the 4 games so far. If that keeps up for an entire year, I really think this defense has like top 5 NBA potential.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't ask for anything more from Embiid, man. Super aggressive on offense, amazing on defense. Barry says Embiid looked like Moses Malone on the offensive boards tonight, and it's the Nick Nurse effect. Now we get to Furkan Korkmaz, who I don't know. I wasn't really expecting much from him in this one, but my goodness, 22 minutes, 10 points, a plus 16. That's the second best on this team tonight, which is 1 of 2 from 3. But he was active, man. He was active. He had some nice moments like that 2-man game with Embiid in transition when he finished with a reverse layup through contact and won. Sean, what would you take on Furkan, man?
Yeah, he competed defensively. He had 3 steals on that side of the floor as well. He looked confident. He played like Furkan Korkmaz, the best version of him. That it feels like he's just been put on a shelf for so long. He's honestly a guy that I feel like kind of bad for. Like he's just kind of been put away, put to the side, and all he wants to do is play basketball. My man is 0 for 3 on trade requests. I've never seen that before. But we see why they had to hold on to him tonight. So I was happy that he got an opportunity. He looked good. He looked sharp. I thought he was decisive. Defensively is what he impressed me the most, that he did compete on that side of the floor. He was in the right spots. He had active hands. He's got good size, and he did wreak some havoc. So I think like he really did provide positive minutes tonight. I think he's going to get another crack at this, another opportunity based on how he played tonight. So I love that for Furk, and who knows how things shake out in the long run, but I'm absolutely like thrilled for him tonight.
It was a great moment, for a bench that needs scoring. Yeah. Let's be honest. He looked good. What about you, Thiago?
Do you think the Clippers looked at tonight's film and they were like, "Oh crap, we fucked up"?
Can we give him Terrence Mann for Furkan Korkmaz?
Yeah, we gotta give up Terrence Mann now. Apparently the most untouchable player in the NBA. When Korkmaz went on the court, my Korkman notes are like, "Oh my God, Korkman went on the court. I can't believe this." I wrote that. I know. He did a little bit of everything. Sean touched on his screening, moving off the ball, hit a corner 3. He's a 4 spacer, something the Sixers don't have a lot of off the bench. I actually like him more than Melton as a fit.
Wow.
I do. I think that on the court, when you put him around Embiid, good things tend to happen. I mean, he's a guy who shoots off the catch, extremely efficient. I thought Melton had a rough game, man, on both sides of the basketball. So I think he's a guy who understands a little more his role and fills that role pretty well as a cutter. Like he's a deceptively good passer. So yeah, I get why he doesn't play, right? The defensive aspect of it on the ball can be catastrophic, but I just think when you're trying to get more offense from your bench, he's actually a guy that you should consider having on the court. But I guess we'll see. There's going to be a long road for him to find minutes with the guys that got back from the Clippers. So, but this is a positive start for him.
Yeah. Quinn says, LOL at Thiago. Prince is our boy, top right, punched into the air, was stupid. Prince says, I do not like Melton starting.
Yeah,
he had a rough one. I mean, that's
all year so far.
Yeah,
that's kind of what Melton is, though. Like, I don't know if he's a starter, but like, I think he's a great 3rd or 4th guard, but I don't know if he's a starter.
But one thing he's not is a point guard, and that's something that Nurse has taken on from the Rivers camp, which just boggles my mind. I mean, I look at this guy, he struggles with ball pressures, doesn't see the court well, doesn't finish at the rim. I just don't know what they see with him as a point guard.
I think Nurse is starting to realize that like I think a lot of this is by default on like kind of the limited options they had. I felt like second half they leaned way more on Pat Bev to be the guy steering the ship there, and Pat Bev isn't perfect as a playmaker or point guard either, but I would consider him more proficient than Melton in those categories, and I feel a little more confident in him running the show. So I was happy that Pat Bev kind of stepped up. He did his Patrick Beverly thing tonight for sure. Technical foul, had that steal and score down the other side, complete with clapping right in Malachi Flynn's face. So I do love having Pat Bev around. I do think he might be a guy that takes on that secondary point guard opportunities. And I do think like in the long run, the Sixers absolutely have to get another guy in here for that rotation within the guard play.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Last but not least, let's talk about the Kelly Oubre Jr. experience. We got it tonight. The confidence was crazy, man. He had 23 points. Has he hit 20 or more in every game this year? I don't know. At least maybe 3 or 4.
I think he had 17 and 13 in the 2 middle games. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, 5 of 6 from 3-point range. I think coming into this, he was like 0 of 10, last 10. That's the Kelly Oubre experience, man. You're never going to see this drive and dish to an open teammate. He's going to jack up his shots. But, man, when it goes in, it looks so good. He looked active again.
Yeah.
Love the swag. Thiago, what did you think about Kelly Oubre?
I mean, if he's going to shoot 5 for 6 on the 3-point line, this guy's a bona fide starter trending towards an all-star player. Unfortunately, he's not that player. He's a 33, 34% 3-point shooter. But in games like tonight, you absolutely take what you get from Kelly. I thought that he struggled a lot defensively, to be honest, defending Scotty Barnes in the first quarter. It was really, really rough. But again, offensively is why you have him out there primarily. And a guy who can attack off the bounce better than most players can on the Sixers team. Can shoot off the bounce as well. Some of the Sixers have a lot of guys that can do that frequently. So I think overall it's a very, very good Kelly game. I'm interested to see how the Sixers move forward because I do think he can get a little bit too happy with his offensive play. We saw signs of that today.
Oh, yeah.
The shots went in, but you're like, no, do not take it. So I'm interested to see how Nurse handles that because there is a path for him to start moving forward.
What about you, Tom?
Yeah, like the one that jumps out to me was his last 3-pointer he hit where he got the offensive rebound and then dribbled out to the 3-point line and shot it like 2 seconds into the shot clock while being contested too. But it went in, and you know what? Like the biggest thing that continues to stand out with me is he competes defensively, man. Like he's swarming, he's switching. There was one play where him and Pat Bev doubled a guy, forced a turnover, and then he immediately turns and flexes to the crowd. And it's like, if you're gonna do those things, I will live with the highs and lows of Kelly Oubre because he does. He gets on the floor, he tries. He's still a good off-ball mover, still a good cutter. So there's a lot more good than there is bad with him at this point. For sure, when the shots go cold, that we're gonna be feeling a little bit differently, and that's kind of the make or break for how important he is to this team. But I really liked what I've seen from him from like an attitude and commitment standpoint though so far. And if this sticks for a season, like I'm very happy with Kelly Oubre.
Yeah,
I just cannot stress enough how refreshing it is to have 5 guys in the court that can actually make a play off the bounce, which is something that PJ Tucker was incapable of. So when the ball swung to him, the offense literally just stopped. And if he didn't shoot the basketball, it was no other outlet. So refreshing to have guys who can actually add more than one thing. None of them other than Maxey are particularly dynamic at it, but it's what modern teams do. Like watch Boston, watch Toronto does. I mean, they're terrible at it, but they have 5 guys that can do that. So it's just the way the basketball is today.
Prince says I was impressed with Max's defense. He had a very good defensive game, especially on ball. Like there was remember that block on Siakam, I believe.
Yeah,
that was nice. That was a shot. I think Kelly Oubre will be better off the bench, so his offense is not stifled. I agree. We'll see how this looks. We'll see how long he's starting. Do you think Kelly Oubre is starting for good? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
No.
I think one of the new guys that come into the trade, I think it's going to be between them to decide it out of Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, Nick Batum. Nick Batum would be my personal preference based on things, but I think Covington has a real chance to win it as well. We'll see how things shake out. But I think it was nice to like give Oubre the opportunity to win this, which like he's kind of earned thus far. But I do agree that I think the best case scenario for him would be an off the bench scoring punch because it spreads out the shots a little bit, and he can come in and kind of change things.
Mm-hmm. Mitch says, love having Kelly Oubre on my fantasy team.
He's a fantasy player. That's
Barry says, PJ stinker. Freddie says, what are the negatives on Oubre? It's really just his streakiness, and there's going to be, he's just kind of a black hole in offense. Like, again, like I said, like this is not a guy that's going to swing the ball, drive, and kick. He's going to shoot. Right?
He's got no passing vision, and he also struggles to defend power. So you saw like Scotty Barnes bully him down low, and Jason Tatum.
I love Scotty Barnes.
Yeah, Scotty's looked like he's taking a little bit of a leap offensively.
His shot looks good. Yeah,
it looks better. I think they clearly want to build that team around Scotty Barnes, which tells you that like Pascal and OG are going to be gone.
Yeah,
but I think about Jason Tatum. He's a powerful, long driver. And I don't see how Kelly is going to stand his ground against a player like that. So defensively, I think they can benefit from a sturdier, like an OG type defender, right? OG can anchor down on Tatum and so forth. So that's, I think, one of his negatives.
Yeah. I mean, he's clearly got a chip on his shoulder.
Definitely.
Like, he's playing excellent. Any thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the tunnel vision kind of for last year with the Hornets, he had a 25% usage rate and averaged 1 assist per game, which is hard to do. Like, yeah, but this is obviously like a much different situation. I think he's enjoying and benefiting from playing on like a winning team with a set standard and a set expectations for him. I think that's very beneficial for him as far as like he kind of knows his role way more. I think like as much as people critique him for the bad habits, it's kind of because he's just been allowed to do all these things. Like he's been on teams where he just can kind of run the show. This is a different story where he's pretty far down on the pecking list. I mean, he still gets his opportunities for sure, but I think like this is a good match for him. And the chip on the shoulder is like very clear in his play. And if he wants a place to rewrite his narrative, this is absolutely a spot where I'd love to see him do it. So I'm happy with it.
Yep. Steven says pick and roll defense is so much better under Nick Nurse. So is the overall effort. We started with that. Like, I just love the hustle tonight. The hustle was so impressive on the perimeter. Thiago had an amazing tweet showing all of our guys just attacking on defense on the perimeter, contesting shots. You know, it was really impressive. Ryan says, guys, what's going on? We've got a Knick fan in the house. I'm not even going to bother. Barry says, put B-ball Paul and Jason Tatum his length.
It's going to fall out in 3 minutes, but yeah, I agree.
Freddie says, what's up, Freddie? He says, Nick Nurse has opened up Oubre, Harris, and even Cork. No doubt, man. Especially Harris. You wouldn't trade Tobias for Siakam, right?
I would trade Tobias for Siakam.
Would you? After that?
I would. I would trade Tobias for a lot of players, man. I get to Tobias' love affair, but I would. I think Siakam has a little bit more juice on the ball. Again, the fit is not great either way, but I would. Sean would. I can tell.
Yeah, I probably would. You'd have to like I guess I have no interest in re-signing Tobias this offseason whatsoever. I kind of I kind of would with Siakam. Like if you make that deal, and not to swing into whole look into the future talk, but I do think it is in the Sixers' best interest to get a move off ahead of the deadline so you can get the birds rights to a guy, and then you can add an extra max player through this process. Siakam and OG are the two obvious answers as far as guys on expiring deals. So I do think that makes sense to an extent. Yeah, my answer is yes. I would absolutely do it.
Ryan says, I've watched all 4 games this year. I agree with the style Coach Nurse has them playing. I liked Oubre since opening night. Harris playing. I've never seen him before. And I'm really looking forward to KJ Martin playing. Yeah. Hopefully they play Saturday.
Yeah. I like that kid, man. He I don't know about his shot, but he is exactly what Nurse wants in that offense, man.
Exactly.
High-level athlete, cutter, open court. I think he's a fun player to watch.
Yeah. I agree, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Ryan says, I like the way Nick Nurse is using the guys. Cork Maz is playing too. No, Thiago, no. All right. Any other final thoughts before we get into player of the game? Going once?
I just want to point out, fourth quarter, Sixers are about to cough up a lead, right? Like they usually do. So you see the Toronto making a kind of a mini comeback, and I thought it was interesting. The Sixers ran 3 straight middle pick and roll actions, the same play, and they got 3 different looks out of it. They got a corner 3, they got an Embiid on a roll, and they got a maxi floater. I mean, that speaks to what Nurse was talking about early in the year, where it's just like, I want to add diversity and unpredictability to the offense late in games. That is something that we did not see under Doc Rivers in any circumstance. It was Embiid on the block, last second shot, or Harden on the ball, jacking up, a 3-pointer. So you're starting to see coaching and what makes teams hard to defend. And you saw a little bit of that today with the Sixers, even though they hit on one of the 3 shots only. But still, that's kind of stuff I love seeing late in games. It's hard to execute with the game on the line.
And like, I don't even mean I mean this completely seriously, but I think like a Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid 2-man game is going to be better than a Joel Embiid and James Harden 2-man game. And the reason that I say that is James Harden's incredibly elite at the things that he does, but he's so limited in the options in that. Like, Maxey's so much more of a diverse offensive weapon when you consider the way he can get downhill, the way he has that floater, the way that he can shoot off movement, how he can move off the ball. Like, there's a lot more that you can kind of build off these base sets than just kind of whether it is pick and roll and pocket pass to Embiid or Harden isoing on the big man that switches out. That was kind of the 2 options that they got out of that. They can do way more with Maxey as the guy because he just has all these other things that he can do as well. And Harden was excellent at the things that he did for sure, but Maxey just has more that he can do. And I'm excited to see this kind of spiral and snowball throughout the season.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into player of the game. All right, we're getting into player of the game and grades. I always go last. I'm going first. Give me Tobias Harris. Efficient as hell, fought defensively, was absolutely dynamic in the open court, man. Finishing through contact, finishing in the paint. I loved everything I saw out of Tobias Harris tonight. What about you, Sean? Who's your player of the game?
I'm giving mine to Furkan Korkmaz, man. He just... it warmed my heart a little bit tonight seeing him go out there and do his thing. It really sold me that N1 to close out that, like, he's been waiting for this moment for a while. There were flashes where Furkan was absolutely like a playable rotation player. It was nice to see that he still has a little bit of that in him. I'm happy that he's kind of been waiting for the moment and that he just seized it and played well. So shout out to Furkan for staying ready. He delivered. Who knows how many nights that I'm going to be able to hand up and consider him for this award. So tonight I'm giving it to him.
All right. Tobias off the books. Furkan, I am the system. Korkmaz off the books. Go ahead, Tiago. Who's your pick?
Well, I gave to Tobias last game, so I'm not giving it to Tobias the next 10 years. I don't care if he scores 50.
You met your quota for the next 70.
Yeah. I thought this is a first time this season where I actually felt Paul Reed's presence on the court. I thought it was a rough start again. He has not been playing well to start the year. But as the game progressed, he became kind of the Paul Reed that we've accustomed to seeing. Offensive presence on the boards. I thought he started finishing around the basket, something he was struggling with to start the year. So, and defensively made a couple of really good defensive plays. So it hasn't been particularly great with Paul Reed to start the year, but he needs to start stacking these performances together because they really have nothing behind Joel. And you need 10 to 15 from you on a nightly basis, and it can't be just dark minutes when you're out on the court. So I thought this is a positive step for Paul Reed tonight.
Yep. Mark says, how do you guys see Rocco fitting in? Do you think he plays like a stretch 4?
Yeah.
That's how I see him, like, playing, being a defensive presence. He's probably like 2 steps back since we've seen him at least, but that's where I see him. Any thoughts on Rocco?
Yeah, I want to see what he's got in the tank defensively still, because there is a world where he was like that defensive guy that could guard primary options. I don't think he's that anymore. I think it's not probably the best bet to hope for that, but I still think he's a guy that can play positive minutes. I think there's a chance he could win the starting job as that power forward option next to Tobias or small forward, however you want to phrase it, with those two pretty interchangeable there. But I think most likely that he is going to be a rotational player. I think Nick Batum's likely going to be the guy that fills that starting role. But I still think he's going to probably be a 15 to 20 minute per game guy and provide some positive minutes. And I'm totally content with that, to be honest.
Yeah, seriously. What about you, Tiago?
Hopefully a guy that's going to shoot launch 3-pointers.
Yeah.
He's going to drive Sixers fans nuts. Remember when he was here with the process years? He was not a particularly shooter.
Yeah. It was that, the streakiness, but it was also finishing at the rim. People were so mad at that.
Yeah, he can't dribble to save his life. But you look at it tonight, 25 3-point attempts. That's way, way low. Maxey really struggled to get a shot off against Toronto's size. They had OG on him a lot of times. So I want a guy, when you're out there 10 minutes, I need to see 5 3-point attempts, man. And if you get 2 out of 5, wrap it up. That's a great night for you, Rocco. Get a couple of steals. So I don't see him as being this position diverse player that he once was. He played small 5 with Morey in Houston 3 years ago. I don't see that happening this year with this team anymore. So, but you gotta shoot threes, man, when you're out there and make a few.
Yep. In 2023, Rocco shot 6.3 attempts from 3 per game, and then this year it's been this is per 36 minutes. 4.2 3-pointers per game. Play-by-play with JJ says, great game. Thanks for joining. Quentin says, top 4 team conference finals appearance. He's moving the chains a little bit, moving the sticks. Wow, Quentin starting to buy in.
They look terrible.
Yeah.
Biggest takeaway, I want OG. He would fit so well into the system. I'm with you, man. Right there. Sean, you're crazy wanting Siakam. Sixers haven't had any luck with a power forward, small forward as a second or third option. Harden didn't work as a guard, but that was the only guard we've tried as a second option. Embiid came into the NBA. In the near future, have another guard as the third option behind Maxey, not a forward. I disagree with this. I think Maxey should have the ball.
Yeah.
I'd rather. That's where this debate comes in. Like, I personally would. I would bank on the upside and the projection of OG versus like a Zach LaVine out of Chicago. Any take?
I think it should be made crystal clear that Tyrese Maxey is the number 2 moving forward. That regardless of who this wing guy that they bring in, and I do still think it should be a wing, because my greatest concern with this team is still who's guarding Jason Tatum, who's guarding Jaylen Brown, who are the guys that when we get to crunch time are going to be capable of getting stops on them. Because when I look top to bottom on this roster, I feel a lot better about Pascal Siakam having a chance than I do about Tobias Harris. Is more of my outlook for that. So I understand like the point, and I don't think Siakam is perfect. I would prefer OG out of the 2. But I think if it's a straight up Tobias or Pascal, I would still take Spicy P.
And I just want to make a point about Zach LaVine, because there's a lot of discourse on LaVine being a wild player, not a great fit. And I understand that. I see it. Don't underestimate the power of having a guy who can all of a sudden go for 45 to 50 points in your team.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about a 7-game series against a team like Boston, which is very even, that can make a difference. We saw James Harden in game 1, and it was game 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he won him that game. Yeah. So I'm not entirely against a Zach LaVine trade, even though, yes, I see how that can kind of get a little bit clunky with Maxey, but that's a lot of firepower in your backcourt, man, with Maxey and LaVine, and then throw Embiid on top of that. I like it. And LaVine can play off the ball too. He can shoot. So
yeah. He's good. He moves well off the ball. That's something I would consider one of his best strengths. Like we've seen it running around screens, doing his thing. So yeah, I like LaVine. I'm not as all in on everything. The defense is still my big concern here, but yeah, I wouldn't close the door on that either.
Quinn says I liked B-Ball Paul today. Barry says he needs time and encouragement to build up his confidence offensively. Talking about B-Ball Paul. Nick Nurse is already coaching so well. Barry says, I think all 3 wing guys will play at the 4 position depending on matchups. Rocco will contribute to lots of deflections. I mean, this team is top 5 in fast break points, which is crazy. That's crazy to think about. Jonathan says, all I can think about is we trade for OG Zach or Mitchell. Any thoughts on the Donovan Mitchell shout out today?
I'm not in on that. For starters, it's not going to happen this year. Cleveland's going to see how this year goes. Thank you, Bill. But my biggest thing is like that's the most repetitive with Maxey, and I think Mitchell is way bigger in people's heads than he is in actuality. He's 6'1". He's 2 inches smaller than Maxey. Like I don't. He's a ball dominant guy. For me, that's way too repetitive. I get it. He's the better player than Maxey right now. But don't do anything to stunt this kid's growth. Like, let Maxey become whatever he's going to become is my biggest concern there. And like I said, like I think this is a next season conversation with Donovan Mitchell. So let's focus on the now.
Yep. Bill, thanks for the donation, man. You're the best. If we're getting Levine, it better not be expensive to get a guy with only 4 playoff games in his life.
It's a different circumstance, man. I mean, he's coming into a team there's an entirely different structure than what Chicago has. And I think at this point of his career, he would be wise to understand his role in the team. And I just think that, like, there was a comment there. It's a guard-driven league. It's a guard-driven league, man. Like, you watch DeAnthony Melton tonight, it's not even the same zip code. So I'm 100% roll Levine.
And for what it's worth, Levine is close with both Maxey and Embiid, that he has the connections with the Drew Hanlon from the trainer standpoint. He's also a clutch guy, and he's also a New Balance guy. So he's done a ton of commercials with Maxey. He trains with Embiid. There is some overlapping connections there. Chicago feels like it's destined to blow up sooner rather than later. Yeah. So definitely one to keep an eye on.
For sure. Jonathan says, I'm out on Donovan Mitchell. Man, not a lot of Donovan Mitchell fans here. F Spider.
Rookie of the year.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that is basketball related, or is the fact that it goes back to the rookie of the year stuff with Ben Simmons. And he's an obnoxious player. I agree with Sean.
A lot of Mo Bamba disappointment going on in the chat. What's up with Mo Bamba? Nick Nurse is just going small. Can't argue with the results right now. And you want Paul Reed out there, but I'm kind of disappointed we haven't gotten the Embiid Paul Reed lineup yet. So
we better.
I think we will. I think we will at some point. All right, let's get into team grades. How would you grade tonight's Sixers performance, Tiago? A to F.
No, I give it an A. I think a team like Toronto, who just beat the brakes off Milwaukee, who, by the way, looks awful defensively. They look absolutely terrible defensively. They got a long way to go to fix that Dame Lillard backcourt, but I think it's a dangerous team, and I think the Sixers came in and handled business, understood what Toronto wants to get done, which is attack the offensive glass, attack the basket. Sixers are having none of that, man. 99 points. I thought it was a fantastic game all around.
I'm good with an A. Like, just the way this team came out was active defensively, defended the pick and roll, held another team under 100 points. The hustle was amazing. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I give it an A as well. That defensively is the number one thing. I think we had some questions the first game when we hopped on after Milwaukee where things weren't quite clicking defensively. I didn't expect for it this quickly to kind of be coming into shape, but I'm seeing the vision. I'm seeing the results. We're seeing the way that this is all working together. So that's the biggest thing, that I'm starting to see an identity that this team is developing. It's going to continue over the course of the season, but I think they're taking excellent steps, and I think they're ready to start stepping up and facing these more impressive teams. So yeah, a performance tonight. And I also really like the fact of they never let this Raptors team fully sneak back into it. Like, it felt like they just kept them at like a hand's distance. And we've seen this team in past years collapse quite easily. So it was nice to kind of have that separation. And I thought they took care of business overall.
All right, guys, we're already 40 minutes in. Tiago, final thoughts on tonight's dub? Plugs.
Yeah, great game. Got Phoenix on Saturday. Boston next week. Boston's playing out of their minds.
Yeah,
it's going to be a fun week of basketball. And I'm putting together an article about Tobias Harris. Also about I write about Tobias Harris against my will. Jamal Murray playing point guard for Denver. They're playing Jokic more off the ball. It's very interesting what they're doing in Denver. And why the Pelicans need to blow it up and keep Zion. It's my take.
Any interest in Ingram to Philadelphia?
No.
No? Is he just all name? Is he just a name guy still?
Yeah.
I like Ingram. I'm definitely higher than him on Tiago based on that answer. He's not perfect. He has his flaws. He's gotten better, I think, though. He's still a mid-range guy. He doesn't have a lot of three-point, but I thought he's improved a ton as a playmaker. That's what stood out to me last year. I have mild interest in Brandon Ingram. I'll put it that way.
My final thought real quick is it's nice to have optionality again. It's nice to be in the tweets. It's nice to be like, oh, wow, the Sixers have assets. And like, unlike the offseason where it was just doom and gloom, and they couldn't do shit because of the whole James Harden fiasco. And now there's actually possibly moves to be made within the next couple of months. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. All right. Sean, plugs, final thoughts on tonight.
Yeah, very happy with how things went tonight. I hope this team keeps keeping us in high spirits throughout the year. So I'm very impressed so far. Just dropped the podcast on Pick Swap Media, breaking down a little more in depth the James Harden trade as well as his recent comments about the Clippers introduction. So you can check that on Pick Swap Media. I'll be on Fox Sports The Gambler Saturday 11 to 1. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_Bernard1 and check out Sixers Digest on YouTube as well, where I got some kind of more rapid fire, quick breakdowns for whatever's happening in the news was in the Sixers world.
All right. The best in the biz, Tiago, Sean. Thank you everyone for commenting. The comments were wild tonight. As always, we'll be back Saturday. We will be doing a watch party on Saturday as well. Big game coming up against Phoenix. And again, please be sure to smash that subscribe button, hit the like button. If you love Nick Nurse, I do as well. He is Tiago. That is Sean. I'm Dives. Stay awesome, everyone.